We'll see if we've got more text or tech issues.
Go check LinkedIn.
Well, it always delays. So this might be live or it might not be live.
Okay, let's just assume it's live.
Okay.
Welcome everyone to the Leadership Radar. I'm Rachel Lee, and we've got Darren Canthal, our CEO of the Canthal Group, and we are executive and leadership coaches. We value health, and we also understand how, for personally, our health impacts our business, and we also coach clients who we see that their health is impacting their leadership as well. So me being a longtime nutrition therapist, exercise science background, executive coaching, Darren being, I'm going to call you a connoisseur of...
Connoisseur?
There's a word I was looking for that is not so nice as connoisseur, but you're like a consumer of all things health and wellness and fitness and weight loss. But ultimately for you, health is one of your top 3 values. And so you make sure that your health is always optimized. It's like you never compromise, at least since I've known you. And so we know how much of an impact that our well-being has on our business and, again, for our clients on their leadership. So we thought today we're going to come here and we're going to talk about what exactly is that impact? What are some things you can do about it? And then I would love to know, like, what are your tips and tricks? I hate the word hacks, but everybody loves the hacks. Like, let us know your hacks as well. Share them with others. So as always, before we get going, Darren, dad joke.
Oh, look at that. You didn't say bad jet.
I didn't.
All right. Did you hear about the new fragrance for introverts? It's called Leave Me the Fuck Cologne.
Where'd you get that one?
I've known that one for a while. I saw it on my Yeah Mad People. And then as I was researching this morning, I saw it again. I was like, that's a good one. I'm going to go with that one.
That's a good one. That was a good one. I like that one.
All right. There we go.
Well done. Okay. So let's dive in.
Okay.
Why don't you start with what you see or what you have experienced as with your health and, how you're showing up. So you were corporate America for 20 years. You've been an entrepreneur the last 6 going on 7. When your health is not optimal, what's the outcome?
I think it's important to state that where you are a trained nutritionist and you have all this background, you know all these scientific things that are well above my head, and you coach a lot of your clients to the same, I don't. Health is not often a topic that I'm coaching to. So a lot of my experience is firsthand with me, right? And that's how you and I met, obviously. And that was what you asked me about. So it's funny when you said in the intro that I never compromise. It's not exactly true because I compromise plenty of times. No?
Go ahead. Keep going.
No, we'll say it. I saw your face.
Well, I mean, before I met you, you compromised a lot. And then, as you like to say, I ruined you with health.
Ruined me with health. Yes.
Yes. And so when you say compromise, let's be clear. Your compromise is like you eat too many Oreos when you decide to have a binge. You eat, and what does too many mean is like the whole package. You will come home and sometimes binge on some crackers. We're not talking McDonald's, drinking every day, right? Like complete disregard to your health. You'll have moments of time, but you very quickly course correct because you know how terrible you feel when you do it.
I think that's the operative thing you just said, right? Like, we're not going to sit here today and talk about eating more salads and working out and having apples. Like, everyone knows that, right? If you want to be healthy, you got to eat healthy, period. The bigger point for us today, and I think what you're asking me, or at least how I'm going to answer, is how I feel when I am not eating healthy, right? It's not just hangry. It's not just by eating that package of Oreos. Like, when I'm off, and off for me is GI, as we know, is I am irritable. I get headaches. I don't think well. I have a hard time stringing sentences together. I stutter. I'm quick to be defensive and or offensive. I'm just not operating at my best. You and I have arguments. I'm not totally present with clients sometimes. Like my brain is foggy, and it's not even foggy. It's just like, it's unfocused, I think is the better word. It's easily distracted. I mean, I'm a self-proclaimed squirrel chaser, but when I'm not at my optimal way or at my optimal best, like my brain is it's just not operating as well. And then to expect me to operate with a half-assed brain and solve big problems, important problems, be with my clients, be a good partner, like it just doesn't equate. And I think that's the big thing is, you say it a lot. So many people don't even know what it's like to feel good. And so their baseline is not even close to optimal. And who knows what they could possibly accomplish if they improve certain elements of their health.
Yes. Yes. Poor health is distracting, whether you think it or not. So if your baseline is poor health and that's just how you operate, it is what it is, and you know no different. And like you said, I think the big question is, what could it be like if you had optimal health? Now, look, this is not something, I'm not focusing on health with my client. That's not why they're coming to me. They're coming to me because they want to be better leaders. They want to sustain leadership. They want to reduce their stress. They want to communicate, reduce conflict. They want to, kind of quiet the rumination, have better boundaries and systems. And because they're in big positions and they have a lot of stress, their health has become compromised as well. So it's like a twofold that I get to help both of those. And when you can do both of those, right, you can optimize both, like you get to the next level so much quicker than if you're just focusing over here on the leadership. Yes, you're gonna grow. But as you said, if you're growing and you're trying to cognitively change and implement new, maybe communication styles and navigate conflict and all these things where you, right, like as a leader, I think you're more cognitive on the human side of things. And that requires a lot of energy. And if you don't have that energy and that clarity because of your health, it slows your progress down. I've seen it all the time. So as you said, right, you're grouchy. For me, it's like lazy isn't the word. It's just lethargic, like inability to motivate. I always say I go to step on the gas and it's just like, it's nothing, right? It's like a little 4-cylinder going up the mountain, like you're barely hanging on, and you can just eke out enough to get you through the day. And even that isn't quality. So what have you done, right? What steps have you taken to ensure that your health is optimal? Because especially now that, right, you're running a business, paycheck comes from you. Stakes are high. I mean, again, fuck around, but why? It's your livelihood. It's your bank account. So what have you done? What steps have you taken to improve your health?
I'm just laughing.
Sit back, everybody. We got like an hour worth.
Well, I'm laughing because I look over to my left, and it's where I've got my goals of the year posted on the corkboard. And each year I have, a word of the year or a saying. And this year, the word is consistency. And the way I joke is I'll say I'm a professional expert at being inconsistent. I do eat consistently gluten and dairy free. Like that's just part of my gig. But then I want to go off the fucking rails and I eat an entire package of Oreos, or we go to Woody's Pizza and I eat 20 pieces of pizza, which are moments in time, right? But I find that I'm inconsistent. So when you ask the question about what I do to ensure that I'm trying to be consistent or trying to be healthy, is I start thinking a little bit, I think bigger picture for me is having effective guardrails, I literally have this conversation in my head of who do I want to benefit or who do I want to screw over more, the present me or the future me? And I will often say to myself, who's going to do this thing, present Darren or future Darren? And it's funny, it really started with getting gas in the car. There were times where the gas would be near empty and I'd be like, who's going to do this gas, me now or me later? So I think about that sometimes when I'm drinking, when I'm ordering at a restaurant, thinking about a week ahead, right? Thinking about the week ahead, I've been trying to be more mindful of what my calendar looks like. You know, I'm kind of a live in the moment type of guy. And so I'm not that thoughtful of the future because I want to live right now. And so part of this health discussion is, well, what is the week ahead showing me? Where am I going? What am I doing? Who am I spending time with? How many clients am I seeing, et cetera? And if I'm not healthy and I can't perform well, then that doesn't feel good. When I don't treat myself well, right? I mean, you know it, I complain. My weight doesn't go down. My GI is off. And you know, I'm bitching and moaning, which doesn't help anything, right? So there's a lot of like, I don't know, nuancy stuff that plays into it, but trying to have these overarching guardrails and rules, hacks, whatever, that seem to work well. Oh, by the way, just as I said, hack, I was thinking about, I made a Google Doc and I've been using their app as a habit tracker. And that's been hugely effective.
What I'm hearing you say is it's less about the in the moment, check the box, tangible. I ate my salad, I had my 2 cups of vegetables, I took my supplement, I got my, it's less about that. And what I'm hearing you say is you're going to the root cause, and that is your relationship, your behaviors, and your intention for your health. And then when you have that, the downstream effect is you eat less of the Oreos. You go to Woody's Pizza less often. You're right. So it's like, the way I look at it is how you approach your health, or just fill in the blank. How you approach one thing is typically how you approach other things in your life. So you said, I wasn't consistent. I like to live in the moment. I chase squirrels, right? Those behaviors were creating you being on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. So the behavior had to change first. You had to be consistent. You had to have clear boundaries. You had to future think. You had to decide in advance. You had to choose discomfort in the moment over discomfort after you binged. So from what I talk to my clients about, and I think we do too, right? Like in different forms. But when I say is like, listen, how is your health? Oh, it's not very good. You're overweight. You have an autoimmune disease. You're not working out. You're lethargic. Your sleep is disrupted. Great. So let's look at the habits that created that. And how are those habits showing up when you go to work? How you communicate, you as a leader, how you stay committed to projects. So I wrote some things down like lack of self-control. So with your health, you have to have self-control. You cannot walk around in this hedonistic state, consuming anything and everything that you want and expect to have health. And so you have to exhibit self-control. Well, where is that showing up in your leadership where you are or you aren't? You have, I have create and communicate boundaries. You have to create them and then you have to communicate them to other people. So when you go to the in-laws and they're, slapping on mashed potatoes with dairy in it and you're now dairy-free and a loaf of bread and you're gluten-free, right? Rather than be like, oh, it's just this once. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You have to communicate the boundary and then you're in charge of holding it. How is that showing up for you at work? How are you doing that with your team? How are you doing that with yourself? So health is a great reflection about how you're showing up at work as a leader, I think. Now, most people don't want to look at that quite so intimately, But if you can change the core problem, the root cause, the inception, it will change everything in your life. So for you, right, it was less about, you know what to eat, you know what supplements to take, you know how to work out, you have a trainer, right? You have a functional medicine doctor, but you had to change the habit and the behavior around it, the mindset.
The big thing that came up, and you're right, about if we're not focused on health or the excuses we make around our health, or really anything for that matter, it does persist or it shows up in other areas. And for me, the big thing is I always want what I want. And my want is so important. Like I want the Oreos, I want the Woodies, I want Dairy Queen, I want to lay on the couch. Whatever I want is such a strong pull for me. It's like visceral. But when I give into my wants, it's too much. But then it also shows up at work, right? I'll have a time block or I'll have a commitment to you of doing something. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that right now. So then I don't. And then I don't hold my commitments. And then I get annoyed with myself. And then if you call me out, I'm annoyed with you for calling me out. And it's all because I'm giving into the want, which is universal across the board. It shows up in all these different places. Sometimes the want is a laziness. It's like the child, I don't want to. It's like this little whiny kid in me that just doesn't want to do the thing because what? I'm lazy. I don't want whatever, right? The other thing that came up is, and I know we both see this in plenty of clients and even some people in our family who are avoiders. So they avoid the focus, and I'm just going to make the tie to health because that's what we're talking about, right? So they avoid the things that are healthy, and then that is persistent across life where they avoid conflict, they avoid conversation, they avoid advocating for themselves, they avoid speaking up, they avoid progress. So I really like what you were saying that, and again, we'll focus on the health because we're talking about the things that we do related to our health will show up and do show up in these other areas in our leadership, in our partnerships with our spouses and boyfriends, girlfriends, and whoever else we live with, our family, and all sorts of other things.
Yeah. Yes. And there's, a lot of different definitions for leadership. And I also believe that leadership extends beyond your work. I think there's leadership within your home, within your community, within different organizations that you're in, and you get to choose your definition of leadership. However, you have to recognize that if you are now a leader and you have been assigned that position, you have impact on other people. So like it or not, right, what you do, what you say, what you model, your team is going to follow. So if you are modeling being unhealthy, sending out emails at 4:00 in the morning, saying that, hey team, let's go to the gym, and then bailing on it, or, oh, I'm trying to eat healthy, and then you order, I don't even know, Chick-fil-A for the team meeting, right? This is part of the awareness of how you reflect and what you do and you say with your health and with your leadership and your family will impact your team. So if you're a leader and you want your team to behave differently, operate differently, if you want to show them a different way, then it has to start with you. That's like no brainer, right? But when we talk about health in particular, and I'm going to read this, is why this is so important is, where did this come from? The Integrated Benefits Institute. Okay, it's a nonprofit health and productivity research organization. According to the data, illness-related lost productivity costs in the U.S. is $530 billion a year. And healthcare benefits for employees and dependents cost $880 billion. So from an individual perspective, if you're not healthy, that sucks. You feel like crap, right? You don't like the way you look. You don't like the way you think. It just sucks. It's just such a distraction and you just don't feel good. And number one, I think that's most important is how you feel every day, how you are experiencing and able to participate in life. But number two, from an organization perspective, that's real money. That's big dollars. So why wouldn't you encourage your team, your leaders, right, to prioritize their health? And then how do you set up your culture to create that? And I'm going to tell you, it is more than just saying we have a culture of wellness and you're going to get a gym membership and we're going to put a salad bar at the cafeteria. Number one, people have to choose their health. And number two, again, those are great perks, but until you actually hire somebody to come in and help the individual change from a mindset perspective, those things will go underutilized and you're going to still have $530 billion a year in lost revenue.
Yeah, there's two things going through my brain. Number one is, I would suppose that 530 some odd billion is based upon like people calling out sick, people on FMLA for illness, like chronic illness, severe illness, etc. And it would be impossible to figure out this number. But I wonder how much productivity is lost based upon, foggy brain, being hungover, being celiac or gluten intolerant and not knowing it and continuing to eat gluten or whatever else. So that was one of like the unknown cost or expense.
So I'm going to interrupt right there. It's called presenteeism. It's when you come into work, quote unquote, sick. And to me, there's the overt sick and then there's the covert or the known and the unknown, right? I'm sick, I have a cold, I'm still going to go in, but I'm going to function at a decreased capacity. And then there's the other where it's the unknown, like you're talking about, like an undiagnosed autoimmune condition where your brain is not functioning, your energy levels, right? Your mitochondria, your immune function, they're all compromised. And so you don't even know it, but you're still coming in as presenteeism. And if I'm spelling or saying that incorrectly, somebody let me know. But that is a factor into this $530 billion year.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. The other thing came out as a little more pragmatic. So you literally use the word model. And you haven't read this book. It's a pretty dry read. It's called The Leadership Challenge. And it's one of my favorite leadership books. It's a framework based upon what they call these 5 exemplary practices of leadership. And the first one is model the way. So for leaders that literally model the way of actions and behaviors, performance standards, communication standards, etc., when they model what they expect of their team, the team will follow in time. And the same thing happens at home, with your friends, especially as leaders, right? And the example they use in the book is, don't say that being on time is important and then you show up late to every meeting. Because what you're modeling is it's okay to be late. And then just as a tie between the leadership and the health that we've been talking about is so often when I've been in corporate and I hear stories of people at companies is we go out for happy hour for whatever. It's always going out for drinks. And my coach, Cam, if you're listening, what's up, man? He's big on changing the happy hour meeting to a breakfast meeting. And then all the benefits of starting the day on a meal and yada, yada, yada. So anyway, I really like that as a hack or an idea. And I've been leaning into some of my networking meetings, not just having a coffee, which is wonderful, but having a breakfast.
That is a great idea because it automatically you think it automatically removes the...
Well, unless you're camping and you like your morning drink as I do.
Right. But we're talking about professional, right? typically you're not slamming down the mimosas and the old fashions and the cocktails and then eating the fried food. And so you're typically, it is a different way to start the day and to still have that happy hour, that connection point. I actually love that. Way to go, Cam. So one of the things that I see a lot with individuals is the stress of these big positions. And it's in that particular, that stress of these big positions having a direct correlation with health conditions. Okay, so I'm not saying that somebody who doesn't work and doesn't have a big job and has a little bit easier, quote unquote, of a life doesn't experience health conditions. But from my experience for 15 years in this industry is that the higher your stress, the greater your quote unquote lifestyle driven disease. Okay. And what I want everybody to hear is this, because this is where I bang my head against the wall and I don't know how to get, I'm afraid that. I haven't yet been able to figure out how to really get this to sink in for individuals. And then what happens is, because it doesn't sink in, they have to blow up, is unless you are willing to change the lifestyle habits, including your mindset, number one, which creates your actions, your lifestyle. Unless you're willing to do that, do not expect your health to improve as much as it potentially could. So what do I mean by this? I have a lot of people coming in and they're like, well, I have an autoimmune condition and I would really like to get off of my meds for that. I have anxiety and I would really like to address the anxiety. I'm overweight. I really want to lose weight. And what I say to them is, in order to do that, in order to quote unquote heal your body and get the results that you are expecting for yourself and wanting for yourself, then we have to start with how are you living your life? And that is fundamentally the stress. The stress, the toxins that you're exposing your body to, and your exercise or lack thereof exercise. Those three things, if you are unwilling to work on those, please free yourself from the expectation of health or of weight loss. Please do that, because you're telling yourself that this is the standard that you want for yourself, but the thing that will get it without pharmaceuticals, you're unwilling to do. Okay. Anxiety, depression, digestive problems, headaches, muscle pain, heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, heart attack, sleep problems, weight gain, memory, focus, autoimmune conditions, all can be tied back to stress. That's what I mean by lifestyle-driven disease. So these big positions that people have, this high stress, is literally creating your poor health. And then for some people, they don't even know it. They don't even connect the dots. And that's where I think that when I get to work with clients, I get to show them, like, this is your job and we want you to keep this job and we want you to sustain it. We don't want you checking out or having to, take a year-long sabbatical or retiring early if you don't want to, but you're saying that you might have to because of your health. Well, let's shore both of those up so you can stay in these big positions. It was a long roundabout way of saying, like, I think it's important though, because so many people say, I'm doing everything. And I will be as direct as I possibly can. And I say, no, you're not. You are unwilling to offload some of your meetings. You are unwilling to have boundaries around when you work. You are unwilling to communicate what your needs are as far as your health. I'm going to the gym at lunch. I'm ordering a salad and chicken breasts for our team meetings, right? You're unwilling to do the beginning mindset framework of things in order to get the health. It's not just checking the boxes. And I'm done.
You said we weren't going to talk about salads, and you just talked about a salad.
I love salads. You know, I love vegetables.
Worst. Two things just to say it. One, some people's stress is at home.
Yep.
With their spouse, the distribution of responsibilities at home, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll speak for you, some of the clients that you'll share their stories with is they're not willing to do something different at home. And so their stress load is consistent. They never address the stress.
It doesn't turn off when they leave the office.
Exactly. And then whatever thing they're working on persists because the stress persists. And the same can be said at work. Regardless of someone's job, senior or more junior, is if whatever's happening at work is consistent, overworked, back-to-back meetings all day, barely time to go to the bathroom or eat a sandwich, and working on all the things you said, weight loss, autoimmune, whatever, unless or until someone's willing to address the stress at home or at work, nothing changes, right? There could be these little incremental things, but overarchingly, root cause, as you always like to say, is always there because you didn't get to the root cause of the stress. And anyway, I'll get off the high horse because I feel like I'm preaching a little bit. But anyway, stress is big. A lot of us don't even realize it.
It's huge. And what was it, 2 weeks ago? I can't remember the date. 3, I don't know, somewhere in January. We did the LinkedIn Live, the Leadership Radar, and we brought in our top 5 tools for leaders, which those tools directly lower stress levels. Well, we think they weren't mindset, they're action items, but right, all the things that we're hearing that are causing this stress, causing people to ruminate, causing people to overfunction, those tools specifically helped address some of that. So we could reduce the load that you're having to manage, which opens up more time, we hope, right, for you to de-stress, be with your family, create, whatever it is, okay? I want to read you some statistics because I think that this is fascinating. And this is why, like, this is a call to action. Like, I can't say it any more passionately for those who are interested. This is a call to action because this will affect your livelihood. It will affect. And so rather than sitting there thinking like, God, why doesn't my brain work? Why can't I find those words? Why am I so tired all the time? Why am I bloated and puffy? Why don't I sleep well, right? Instead of racking your brain and trying to figure all of that out, I want you to listen to this. And then this is why it's so important because this could be part of it. Number 1, 78% of people with autoimmune disease are women. Think about that. 78%. 95% of patients with systemic lupus and Sjogren's syndrome, which are both autoimmune conditions, are female. 95. Arthritis, multiple sclerosis occur in females 60% more than in males. And not most, autoimmune disorders tend to affect women during periods of extensive stress, which, yes, can include pregnancy, but plenty of these women are not having babies or during great hormonal change, menopause, perimenopause, and, by the way, stress, because stress changes your hormones. Okay, we're not talking just about estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, DHEA. We're talking about hormones like cortisol. We're talking about hormones like your thyroid hormones, T3, T4, TSH. There's other hormones that all create this. Why is this important? Because most of these people are undiagnosed. I think they said the average Doctor's visits for women before they are finally diagnosed with an autoimmune condition is up to 8 to 10 different doctor visits before they are finally diagnosed. So now you're a leader, you have a big position, you are trying to, I don't want to say prove yourself, but you're trying to perform at the highest level. You're trying to also be a role model, right? You have a lot of responsibility. You are important to so many people, but yet you're running on 50%. You go to step on the gas and there's nothing there. You're questioning what's wrong with you. Nobody's listening. Why can't I produce? All of these things. And it could be because of these undiagnosed conditions that are dotted line to your stress. Did I make that clear enough?
I think so. I want to put a different spin on mindset.
Okay.
So just hear me out here for a sec. And let me preface it by saying that I get annoyed with people like me, like my contemporaries, that use all the buzzy words in our industry. And I'm not saying that about you. I'm just saying in our industry, right? Just change your mindset. You know, it's like this thing that we hear. So fuck mindset. It is important, but I have a different spin on it. So when I think about mindset, and this is something I do coach to a lot, is the conversations we have in our brain. Now, it's important to preface that from some of my research, apparently upwards of 50% of the population does not have internal narrative. Like they don't talk to themselves. So I talk to myself all day long. I can't speak to those that don't. Most of my clients talk to themselves. So the spin on mindset is thinking about the conversations in our brain. So using what you just said, if a woman or a man or anyone else is having conversations in their brain about why don't I have energy? Why am I so tired? Why am I so lethargic? Why can't I figure out these words? Why can't I solve this problem? Right? This is the internal conversation. I would say the internal narrative in our brain. And when we're contemplating these questions that don't have answers, that is stress. It is a constant buzz in your brain of what is wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? And even when it's not a conscious thought, it's in the back of the brain, just sitting there, idling, which adds to stress levels. The thing I coach to is trying to help people reduce the conversation and the chatter in our brain. And the way that I try to do that is what questions don't have answers and/or what are you curious about? If I'm curious why I don't have energy, okay, that's the question without an answer. How do we start to get information or start to get an answer? Maybe we don't need 8 to 10 doctors. Maybe we can do it in 4 to 5. Right? Maybe the first call is to you, Rachel, which is always my first call. Point being is that when we ruminate on this shit, and I do this because I spin on these thoughts. I have other people talk about spiraling or simply being stuck on a thought. The stress is just there. The only way for it to stop being as stressful is to take some action. The action is inviting someone else into the conversation, getting a coach, seeing a doctor, asking a friend, doing something other than just thinking about it.
I am 100% in agreement, right? Knowing what I know about the body, I'm going to tell you, a thought in of itself will create a chemical reaction in your body, which will create a hormonal response. And plus all these other things, an inflammatory response, right? Like a blood sugar response. Every thought, listen to me, every thought that you have as a human being is creating creates the chemical, sends over the synapses, goes down into the body, and there's this huge downstream effect. Okay. Even if you're sitting there reading a book and then all of a sudden you start ruminating, like I remember when I was super stressed out and I used to, my adrenals, like it was a whole thing. I was going through the divorce, right? I've talked to you about this openly, is like I would have these horrible thoughts about my kids dying or us being attacked. Like I was on such high overdrive and my hormones were so dysregulated that just sitting there, even if I was completely safe in my environment, and I would have this thought that would just invade my brain, that thought alone would create the downstream effect, the chemical downstream effect. So what you just said is so important. So I say mindset, you say the narrative. To me, they're kind of interchangeable, a little bit different. But if you are trying to repair your health or protect it or change whatever it is, I want you to know every thought that you have will create something. You will either have this positive downstream effect within the body, or you can have this negative. And that's what I mean by if you are trying to work on your health and you're saying everything isn't working and you're not exploring what's going on in your brain, like that could be your solution. That right there could reduce the stress cascade. That could improve your blood sugar, right? It could help your anxiety. We know that when you have that invasive thought, right, you're going to trigger that fight, flight, freeze response. Well, what happens? Your digestive system slows down. What are you doing? And if your digestive system is slowing down because the things you have to go, you're not processing your food. You're not absorbing your nutrients. Then you have gut issues. You have bloat. So this is so important. I get so excited about this and so worked up because I think a lot of people are suffering and a lot of people are living in confusion. And there are solutions to this. And the people that we work with, I would say you and I, most of them are take action type of people, right? There's a reason why they're in these high positions. They're very successful. So what you're saying is you have this invasive thought. I'm showing the physiological response. You're saying just do something. Take some form of action to break that neural pathway because it's going to repeat itself. That's the thing about your brain too. The more you think it, the more habitual it becomes, the more automated it becomes. You don't even know that it's happening. You just know like, holy shit, now I have autoimmune disease. I have Hashimoto's. Why? What's going on? What's the problem here? Oh, now it's going to downstream into my gut. Now I have leaky gut. Oh, no. So stop the narrative, take an action, and be very, very, very conscious of who's in charge of your brain. Is it running rogue? Is it doing its own thing? Are you letting it go unhinged, or are you directing it? Are you leading it? Are you bossing it around, right? Like you do in many areas of your life because you're so successful. Do the same thing with your thoughts that will help you with your health. You have to do this as a leader, I believe, right? Like, why not? You got to this position. You worked your ass off. You earned it. Why would you ever compromise it with something like your health that is 100% within your control? Unless, of course, you're handed down a genetic disorder. Okay, so let's wrap this up. What's our takeaways for our clients? Because I'm on my soapbox.
For me, I think what was real salient was the impact of stress. I think for some people, even me, or including me, we don't even realize when we're stressed. Right? You'll ask me that plenty. I'm like, I'm not stressed. Home and work are the places we spend the most amount of time. And if we're not achieving certain results we want, looking at stress loads at home and work is the first place to look. And you said something else that I was going to reference. Narrative. Action is the antidote. Do something other than just ruminate.
Yes. All of that will impact how you show up at work, like you said, how you show up at home, and how you show up for your health. Like, pay attention. How are you doing this one thing, and how does that translate over to how you're doing the other thing? How are you letting yourself off the hook with your diet? How are you letting your team off the hook with a deliverable? Like, it's not super fun, right? When you have to look at the things that we're doing that are causing a negative outcome. But if it's the solution, why wouldn't you do it? And I think that's what our clients do. So we have the healthiest leaders. We have we help them, right? We help them become healthy as leaders, physically, mentally. We ensure that, right, they have good communication style and they're communicating their boundaries and they're shoring up any type of conflict, right? They're finding resolution. And we're at 10 o'clock and I'm going to cut myself off because I'm going to honor our commitment of 45 minutes because I could talk about this all the time and I'm getting sucked down the rabbit hole. Right?
Want to finish your thought? Or did you?
No. Listen, if you want to be a better leader, improve your health. Period.
Right.
All right. We are back here next Tuesday.
Yes.
Can't remember what we're talking about. Do you?
Nope.
I do. Hold on. Everybody stay with us real quick. Oh, the home advantage, how leveraging your personal life helps your leadership success. Kind of what you were touching base with. Or never mind. I need a snack. I need to go fuel my brain. All right. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye. See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.